as a result of you eating that animal, you do good with that energy that the animal gives you. I think that animal wants to give you that energy because
You're aware that the camera's filming you?
yeah, I am aware.
So I'm here today outside King's College, and I believe that, you know, in this world, especially as you know, the way we're progressing, we should all really be going vegan. What are your opinions and thoughts on that?
I think you might have a point in terms of the fact that the food industry of this world today, this modern world, is completely unacceptable and it's just completely unethical. But if you're saying we should be vegan as a matter of principle, as in like we should not eat animals per se, I don't quite agree. I think if you had a farm, for instance, and if you were to raise your animals in a humane manner, I think in fact that's what the animals were for. Like just in the same way that, you know, tigers eat deers. I think we have a not a right per se, but I mean we were created to eat chickens, for instance.
You touched on a couple of points, so I want to break them down and go through them individually. The first thing you said was about the concept of like a humane farm, right? And I want to know how do you kill an animal humanely?
Preferably with a sharp knife, and preferably right across the jugular veins.
And what does the word humane mean? What's like the definition of humane?
I guess the definition of humane is, especially in regards to keeping animals, I'd say the way in which you raise them to the slaughter, right? So I wouldn't support like, you know, keeping animals in cages and things like that. But I'd rather, you know, have them roam free and all, let them live their life, and when it's time for them to be eaten, or when you need to eat, then you gotta eat the animal.
But if like we've taken the word humane, and what's happened there is you've applied it in a situation. So you've saying this is kind of my interpretation of humane for this situation. But what about just like an objective dictionary definition of that word? What does it mean, do you think?
Well, I suppose it just means, well, humane, derivative of human, to be human, something that's natural.
And what does to be human mean to you?
It means to go about. Well, for me, a human is not somebody who's, you know, you don't live life to just slug it out and to just get money, power, and that's not what it's about. It's about to live your life in the best way possible, to do good and to promote good and to tell others to not do evil. That's what it means to be humans, along with, you know, other things that just come natural to humans and to me, and not to you. Eating animals would be one of those natural humane things.
So you said in the pursuit of kind of like doing good, and I think that's a really good thing. I think the dictionary definition is pretty much along those lines. It says to show or have compassion or benevolence, so to do good and to avoid evil. But do you not think that to take the life of an animal if we don't have to is an act of, I don't want to say evil because that implies that you're evil, but it's not an act of good if it's an unnecessary act?
If it's unnecessary, that's true. But sometimes in living a human life and in doing activities and in being a productive person, I tend to concede that it is necessary.
So when in your day-to-day life is it necessary?
Well, I wouldn't actually. I think, like, well, I wouldn't say that I'm the most. Well, we all have faults, right? You know.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would say I'm also guilty. I think because I definitely eat more meat than I should. I'd say more meat than I should. I don't think I should refrain from meat all, like, full stop, all meat forever. But I think that maybe, like, considering the way that I mean, if I had a farm, then sure, that's fine, you know. But if you want to be like ethically sound, I'd say, you know, once or twice a week, I think would be fair.
The thing is, you yourself said that to take the life of an animal unnecessarily was a bad thing, but then you yourself said that. Well, you didn't say it, but you pretty much implied that you don't have to eat animals on a day-to-day basis. But then you kind of counteract that by saying that we all have faults. Now, do you think the fact that we all have faults provides us justification to then do bad things?
No.
But that's what you.
Yeah, that's true. But let me rephrase. We all have faults. So, for instance, if I eat meat every day, or if I pass by the homeless man and not give him my extra change, those things are faults, you know. Right. And I'd say that. Yeah, like I said, twice a week I think would be fair. But I mean, it depends on what you do, really. I mean, if you're a guy who has to, like, I mean, if you can't expect like a construction worker to not eat meat.
Why not?
Because it's not. He's going to need that energy, I think.
And can you get that? Can you get that energy from plants?
You can get some energy from plants,
Okay.
but I'm not so sure.
Well,
Like,
what's
no,
energy?
okay.
What's energy? Where does energy come from in the field?
Okay, I'm not so sure that I don't know. I think why not respect plants as well? Like that's my take as well. All living things. Not just living things really. Like to me, even rocks sometimes. If you, like everything has a form of spirit, and I think you should respect everything as a form of creation. And animals deserve our respect. So do plants. I'm not trying to say. I'm just saying. I don't know. I think there's a way to kill an animal respectfully.
Okay.
That's what I think. I think that if you were to kill an animal, and as a result of the energy you get from that animal, you do harm, then you are at fault. Then I think you shouldn't eat at all. In fact, you should. What are you doing with your life? But if you eat food, and as a result of you eating that animal, you do good with that energy that the animal gives you. I think that animal wants to give you that energy because animals, in a sense, they don't have free will, and I think they know that they're a lower form of being. But when they give you that energy, they become a higher form of being, and if you do good with that, I think they'd be very happy with that. That's what I think.
So there's a few points made there. So let's just summarize. So you believe that an animal would be happy to have their life taken from them if the person who killed them used the calories they got from their meat to then be a good person.
Yes.
Right. And is there any kind of scientific foundation for that, or would you say that was purely subjecture?
There's a completely spiritual point of view.
A completely spiritual point of view. Okay. So now we'll come back to this, but you raised an issue about plants. I actually want to touch on this because I think it's quite an interesting thing. So you said we should respect plants, and no, I fully agree. For me, veganism is not simply not harming non-human animals. It's more about trying to live in a more symbiotic, harmonious relationship with the planet. Okay, great.
Yes.
So we agree on that point, which is good.
Symbiotic, yes.
So the issue that we have, looking
What
globally.
is symbiotic or not?
Well, okay, yeah, exactly. The issue looking globally is we currently grow enough food to feed, between 10 and 12 billion people. But the food that we grow, we feed to livestock animals. So it takes up to 16 kilograms of plants to produce up to 1 kilogram of meat. That meat being beef, and then lamb's about 12, and it kind of goes down proportionally. But the point...
Not to mention the amount of waste as well.
Yeah, amount of waste,
The
right?
amount of waste, the food that expires.
So I think that if we want to live and we want to respect the life of plants, we should also be vegan, because by being vegan, you're responsible for less plants being used, you're responsible for less rainforests being destroyed, you're responsible for less habitats being destroyed. So if we truly want to live in a spiritual alignment, I feel that taking life kind of juxtaposes that attitude of spirituality.
I agree with what you said about symbiosis, like the fact that we have to live in accordance with what is sustainable, really, right? Right. But I think I disagree with the idea that you have to be vegan in order to be sustainable and to respect symbiotic relationships. I mean, I'm from Malaysia, and we have lots of rainforests there, and there's indigenous tribes there as well. And I think you'd be hard pressed really to find an indigenous tribe that doesn't eat animals. And to be fair to the indigenous peoples and to people who actually do live in society, can we say, even if you are vegan and you live in this modern day, can you say that you live a more sustainable life than them? You know what I mean?
I think that's a really beautiful point that you make, and I think what I would say to that is, I'm not saying that I can say that I live more sustainably, because I obviously don't, but I think it comes down to that issue of necessity, right? And so these people who live indigenously and they kill animals, they do so probably because they have to survive. And so for me, the morality of veganism comes down to that idea of necessity. So here in London, we're in the middle of central London, there really is no necessity for us to consume animal products. In the middle of a Malaysian rainforest, the argument can be made differently, but fundamentally for you and I in this present moment, we don't have that necessity, and because we don't have that necessity, I don't therefore feel that we can justify the action of taking life. And use that word respect, but for me, to take someone's life when they don't need to die is the opposite of respect. So say there was a dog walking down the road now, and I killed that dog and ate that dog, and then from the energy I got from eating that dog, I then went and I said, gave money to a homeless man, or I helped someone who was blind cross the road, something like that. Does that therefore justify the action of killing that dog? And was it respectful to do so?
But like you said about the Malaysian thing, right? Like if it was your only source of energy, then it is completely acceptable. But for you and me, it's not. And I mean, you gotta, like, I don't know how far. I mean, you're right. I mean, your ethical principles are completely fair, and I can't say anything really to justify the world that we're living in and the city that we're living in. But I'm not so sure that the city we're living in is completely based on the idea of, the fact that we're meat eaters is what's causing all this trouble in society, really. And I mean, you have a good point. I'm not saying you don't have a good point, but there's so many things, there's so many illnesses in society, and I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to play down your cause, and it's good cause, but I'm not so sure it's the crunch of the issue. I think for me it's human beings. I mean, this is something that just happens. I mean, we've been suffering with it the moment we were created, right? Like greed and envy and jealousy, hatred, fear, this idea of that you're better than others, as
right. And do you think that it's wrong to think that you're better than others?
Yes, I think that it's wrong to think that we're better than others. I mean, and when I say other, I do mean human beings. Okay. Because there is a distinction between forms of life.
Okay. And so, okay. All right. I'm going to lead with that. Okay. What is the distinction between us and other non-human animals?
Free will.
So
and
give me an example of how we display free will that an animal does not, or a non-human animal.
Me and you, we're talking about this.
Yes.
We're talking about the concept of life.
Yes.
We're talking about how our race, when I mean our race, the human race, can live a more ethical approach to life. Animals don't think about that.
But they don't have the cognitive or intellectual capacities that we do. But they can have a conversation like we do.
But that's where I disagree. I mean, they don't have the intellectual. That's true. Yeah. But they don't have that human spirit. I think like that.
Well, presumably not. No. That they would have that dog spirit or that pig spirit.
They have spirits.
Exactly.
I'm not saying they don't. Yeah. But I think for them, it's like things are just known, and for us, we gotta think things through, and our mind and our spirit, our heart is like innately connected. But for them, it's like they just know. They know that their place in the world, and they know how to deal with things.
Right.
But for us, it's different. I think it's a gift.
So I think the differentiation there is that we have cognitive abilities that non-human animals maybe do not.
It's not just that. We have a responsibility. We have the biggest responsibility of all species.
And are we fulfilling that responsibility?
We're not fulfilling that responsibility.
And in what way are we letting that responsibility down? What is our responsibility?
Our responsibility is to be good caretakers of the world. And so we have to. And when I say good caretakers, we have to live. Like we were talking about symbiosis just now, we have to live sustainably with the world around us, and we have to
raising animals, living sustainably, responsibly, and respectfully, or is it undermining our responsibility and actually not being caretakers of the planet, but in fact doing the opposite?
Slaughterhouses, the way that they are in Western society and really lots of societies in the world. That is unjustifiable, and when we're talking about that, I agree. We're not doing our responsibility.
But how do we kill animals not in a place of slaughter?
Like, I mean, that's the thing. If you were to go to, like, Eastern European farms, and you have traditional shepherds and people who actually
in the same way.
No, yeah, they are, but
they're still factory farmed.
No, that's not necessarily true.
Well, chickens and such, they still millions of people to feed. That's why we factory farm.
That's the thing, right? For me, I think that whatever, like, that's why this export-import stuff is, when the economics gets involved, it gets a bit more confusing,
Absolutely.
But what I think is that, if you have a farm and if you're just having a farm and you're feeding your family and the surplus from that is being used to feed your community, nothing wrong. Like, that's what I think when you make it into a business of profits, that's when it really gets difficult.
But the thing is, if people want to consume these products, there's a demand to be met, and if there's a demand, there has to be a supply. And so, if you yourself say these things, but when you go and buy a product, you're going against your own morals because you're saying this is wrong, but I'm still going to buy it. And my excuse for buying it is that we're all flawed. I don't think that being flawed justifies bad behavior.
True. I agree, and I guess we all have to take some steps in changing.
Okay.
I'm trying to.
So what steps are you going to take to change?
As a result of this, I'm definitely going to eat less meat. Not going to be completely vegan. I think I would rather have like milk from. I hate this idea of homogenized and pasteurized milk. Like it's disgusting actually when I see what's going on. Like most of the milk is like pus and like they burn it so that all like it's.
That's why it's pasteurized.
Yeah. But like for me, I think I mean that like you can't say that like that's where I disagree. You can't say that there aren't farmers who are doing things sustainably. Like that's for me that's the main difference with me and you. Like, I think there are some humans who go against that animalistic desire in themselves to think that profit's the only way to live life and they actually know that you have to actually live in a symbiotic relationship with the beings around you and to live sustainably really and I think there are humans around there and I think we should encourage these humans and that's why I think the organic movement is a good thing.
Okay.
For instance.
The word symbiotic represents kind of a circle of cooperation, right? An interchangeable system where each part of it is responsible and mutually involved, okay? So do animals freely and willfully walk themselves to a slaughterhouse, or are they taken there against their will?
That's the thing. I think it's some animals are different, right? Like I mean, if you were to keep a tiger in a tiger and you're gonna eat the tiger, that's you're doing something against their nature. But if you were, for instance, keeping a goat or a cow or a chicken, those are livestock, and that.
Who defines
and
who defines them as livestock? Who's decided they're livestock?
Nah, they are livestock.
Who says? You say?
No, it's not. I say it's more like, okay, why do human beings live in cities? Why do tigers live in jungles?
Right.
And why do goats and cows? Because obviously, if they were to be released in the wild without humans to protect them, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves.
So humans live in cities because we want to. Tigers live in jungles because it's their nature. But animals live in farms because they're enslaved and we force them to do so.
Livestock live in farms.
Because we make them. They're enslaved and we force them. We breed them in there. We've domesticated them to the point where they have to rely on us for companionship and help.
I think
They
they like the companionship, and it's we humans who betrayed that companionship. We betrayed their trust.
And we
betray their trust not by killing, but by not treating them well. Killing, I think that was the agreement. I think that
the agreement between who? Who agreed?
Yeah. Well,
Do the cows agree to have a knife pulled across their throat?
Okay, that's why I said the human being is a higher animal in the sense that we have to know what. Well, they don't agree with the knife across the throat thing, but I think you'd be surprised. There are some instances, there are some videos of like animals and humans who and when I say humans, I mean the farmers who live well with these animals, and who when they do slaughter them, they don't need anybody else but themselves. Like it's just a human and a cow, and usually, I mean, I don't know if you've seen a slaughter before, but usually when they do slaughter, and it's really sad to see them slaughter, you'd have like 6 people trying to push the cow down, and that's when it's like, okay, this cow is clearly does not want this. But sometimes I've seen on videos that sometimes the human owner, and they've had a good relationship, presumably the human has named the animal as well. He actually just he holds down with one hand, and you can see the animal just laying down willfully, saying like
trust.
Yeah, and I'm ready to go. He's like no, and he put like his hand on the neck just to pretend like it's a knife, right? And the animal, he wasn't panicking. He was ready to go.
Because he trusts them. So if I have a relationship of trust with someone, and why would I ever presume they're going to do something wrong to me? And now that cow has no comprehension that the slaughterhouse or the.
I disagree that killing is equals wrong. If you're killing for no reason, for instance, if you kill an elephant or a tiger.
What if you want to eat them?
Yeah, but if you want to eat them, that is a reason.
So you can kill any animal as long as you want to eat them?
Yeah.
If I rescued a Labrador from a shelter, would I be then justified to cut their throats and eat them?
But that's why I said some animals have different natures, and when we speak about livestock, they're meant to be eaten just the same way that wheat and potatoes are meant to be eaten.
Why aren't dogs meant to be eaten?
Dogs are not meant to be eaten because actually dogs they're really actually meant to take care of those who are to be eaten, right? Like, I mean, you have dogs traditionally are shepherd animals, and they're used. They know they're used to help the humans take care of these animals.
So okay, a dog has a use to humans other than food. What about, say, A rhino. A rhino serves humans no purpose. Are we then justified to kill them and eat them?
But it's not in the rhino's nature we're not in the how do I say this? Okay, a lion is meant to eat a zebra, and so if we were to go in and eat the lion or the zebra, we'd be messing about with things. But the goat and the cow and the chicken, they are, and I know you disagree with this, but they're in our food chain. They're directly in our food web, and we have to eat them. I know I don't say we have to eat them, but it's justified for us to eat them, just in the same way that it's justified for a tiger to eat a.
Why does a tiger?
The tiger doesn't eat a cow because it's not. I mean, the thing is, if the cow was there, the tiger will eat the cow because the tiger can't think about this stuff. But we can, and I think we have a responsibility to eat animals that are meant to be eaten by us.
But who decides? Who decided that they were meant to be eaten by us? Who decided that? Some ethereal being, or was it a cultural thing? Why do we eat pigs but not eat dogs? But in China they eat dogs. Okay, but why do you eat cows and eat chickens but not eat dogs? But in China they'll eat dogs, and in India they won't eat cows. Why is it that certain different areas of the world eat some animals but don't eat others?
Yeah, that's just because human beings they have different ways of looking at the world.
But if your claim or your rationale for eating certain animals is that's their place in nature, then why is that not universal across the world and it's only in this country and in a few other countries where that's the case? If it's a universal truth, then it should operate globally.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's pretty universal. I mean, it's not super universal, but there are similarities. I think. I mean, I wouldn't say it's universal, but I mean, there are similarities.
But surely it's a cultural thing, right? You eat this animal because you were born in this country. You believe in this philosophy because you were born in that area of the world.
No, it's a different way of looking at the world, and I think you'd be surprised that there are a lot of similarities. If you think it's completely based on culture, you'd have radically different situations. But when you look at the cultures, you see that it's not. I mean, I think you'd be more surprised at the similarities than the differences. I mean, if you keep focusing on the differences, then you think everything is wrong.
Tell me the similarities then.
I mean, it's obvious that tigers and lions are wild animals, and animals like cows and goats and chickens and pigs are domesticated, and animals like dogs and cats are meant as pets and companions. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find that things are different in different places.
But they are. In China they eat dogs.
Yeah,
in India they don't eat. Well, a lot of people don't eat cows.
Okay. In China they eat dogs because there's nothing else to eat.
They have pigs and chickens and ducks and cows.
They have lots of people, and it's hard for them to keep up with things. No, seriously.
It's a tradition. They eat dogs because it's traditional. That's why we eat lamb at Easter. And
I'm not saying that it's okay. That's fine, and okay, that could be their tradition that they eat dogs, and that to them that's the nature of things.
Is it moral because it's traditional?
I'm not saying it's immoral not to eat dogs. I mean,
clarify that. Sorry, it is moral to eat dogs, or it's immoral to eat dogs?
It depends on where you. I mean, like you said, right? I mean, it depends. I mean, you gotta.
So it is cultural.
Yeah, it's cultural, I guess.
So should culture dictate morality?
Culture shouldn't dictate morality, but morality is something that it's universal, right? Morality is universal.
We'd hope so. We'd hope so.
It's universal, and I mean, I'd be hard pressed to find veganism as something that's universal.
But the belief of not harming others, you would say is a good moral code or a bad moral code? Do not inflict unnecessary suffering if you don't have to.
That's a good moral code, but I mean...
So then you juxtapose what you believe to be a good moral code.
Picking flowers?
No.
Yeah, why?
Because flowers don't feel pain or have a consciousness or a sentence.
You think...
Can you tell me differently?
Well, I don't know if they feel pain or not. I mean, I'm not a flower.
No, you're not. Oh no, you are. You're a bit of a sunflower, in a nice way,
Thank you. I'm not so sure, I mean, it's all I'm trying to say, and I have to go soon. But I'll just end this with the idea that, you know, human beings, we have to go back to our nature, and our nature is to be good, and it is to be compassionate. And when it comes to the subject of meat, you're right. I don't think we should eat it unnecessarily, but I think to abstain completely from the eating of meat would not be natural to the human being. And I think there is a more ethical approach to this, and I think that maybe somewhere in the middle is the right approach. I think I tend to always side with moderation.
I appreciate you saying that, and I just want to leave you with this maybe final point. I think that sometimes we confuse what's natural with what we've always done, or a habit that we've committed for a long time. And so I don't disagree with you that we've been doing consuming animal products for a long time, but I don't think that provides any moral justification for it just because we've been doing it for a long time. Now you said before about not viewing others as better than as you yourself as better than others, and that's how I feel about being vegan. And I used to agree with you that applied only to humans, but actually when we look at a lot of the systemic problems that we have within our society, it comes from that very foundation that we view some life as different to others. And so if we extended our compassion to the lives of, say, chickens and cows and pigs, then we can... Oh, sorry, no, please
okay.
Go.
No, the only thing I'm saying when I say that humans it's a different sort of thing, I just mean that we have a bigger responsibility in the sense that because we have our free will and because we have this spiritual nature in us to choose between good and to choose between evil and to think about this, these concepts that these things obviously can't think about, like what's the meaning of life, what's the point of it all, is there a God, isn't there a God, is good and evil something that changes depending on culture, or is it something that's universal and real forever from the beginning to the end, and the fact that these animals can't think about these things, it just means we have a bigger responsibility and to look after them. That's true, and that's just where I disagree with on the idea of what it means to look after animals and to look after each other. And I don't know,
define looking after. So if I said you have to look after, I'm more vulnerable than you, I require your care, and I hope that you will look after me. Describe what your responsibilities of looking after me would look like.
Yeah, you're okay. I wouldn't kill you, obviously.
Thank you.
I know that's what you were trying to do here with me, and in regards to animals. But I don't know. I think if you were to stop eating animals completely, I'm not so sure that you'd be able to feed mankind. And we have a responsibility to men as well, just as well to animals. And I'm really sorry. I really need to go soon.
I understand.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think I get where you're coming from, though.
So just last point, just so you know. The system that we have in place now is so unsustainable, and the food distribution is so poor that we can't feed every mouth that we have with the current food system that we have.
And the food system is absolutely unjustifiable. It's true.
But the reason we factory farm is because it's the only way to meet the demand. And so if we reverted back to the systems of farming you're talking about, people wouldn't be able to eat meat anyway because it wouldn't be economical or environmentally sustainable.
I'm not so sure about that. You might be right, but I haven't seen the stats on that. But considering how much food we waste, how much food we waste. So considering how much food we waste, I think that we could decrease supply and still feed everyone in the world, I think, in my opinion. But I don't know if we were to completely eliminate the supply of animals. I'm not so sure. I don't think we have enough land, to grow rice and to grow potatoes.
Animal agriculture uses 45% of the Earth's total ice-free land. Okay, anyway, so just to summarize very quickly,
yeah.
I believe that what you say follows a line of very logical thinking. But I feel like you get to a point where you become morally inconsistent, where you say it's wrong to kill if it's unnecessary. However, it's acceptable if it's only a couple of times a week. But if it's wrong to kill because it's unnecessary, that is just an objective reality. And it doesn't matter if you do a little bit or a lot; it's still wrong. Like murder's wrong. It doesn't matter if you kill one person or 100 people. And sure, killing one person is better than killing 100, but it doesn't make that action morally justifiable.
Yeah, but I'm just not saying that. That's where I disagree with the fact that killing in itself is morally unjustifiable. For me, it's how you kill them and how you take care of them before you kill them that's morally unjustifiable in today's day and age. And I think there is a way to kill them that is morally justifiable, and that's all I'm trying to say. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you. No, thank you as well. That you've given me a lot of food for thought, and hopefully
Pardon the pun.
Hopefully it's not from meat,
Exactly. But
not quite, but I think I really do appreciate where he's coming from, and at least you're not one of these guys who just don't think about these things.
Absolutely. And right back at you. Thank you for the open-minded conversation. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.